And we're on talking football. An exciting finish to the Sunday slate as we hit the live button. Jalen Hurts ran it in for the game-winning touchdown. Welcome, everybody, to Fantasy Football today. Bonanza in Philadelphia. And Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen in a fantasy slugfest. That was really awesome. Adam Mazer with Heath Cummings and Dave Richard here. This was a great day of football. I had two choices for Game of the Week. They were both wonderful. Obviously, I should have chose the Eagles-Bills, so that's my bad. But Dave, wahoo! Hooray for school and hooray for football!
Hooray for a really fun and entertaining week, especially if you include, well, maybe if you don't include what we saw on Thanksgiving. Maybe stay away from that, but should have some good scores in your fantasy league. Should have some tight games and a lot of exciting performances. A lot to look forward to. Not a lot of injuries. It feels good.
I don't know what this optimism is all about. Like, I've got more points on my bench than I do in my starting lineup. All these points are scored by guys that I didn't want to start.
I don't think that's true. Look at the leaderboard. Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Kyren Williams. Let's check his start percentage real quick. Kyren Williams.
77. We've already had conversations about Kim and Pacheco and like rules for start of the week based on start percentage.
That's great. CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, Matthew Stafford, no. Christian McCaffrey, Jalen
Love wasn't started either.
No, Love and Stafford, no.
I started him in one
game. Trevor Lawrence, also another big game. Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill. All right, anyway, let's get to our winners and losers here. We'll talk about the Rams wide receivers. We'll talk about Adam Thielen, Joe Mixon, Trevor Lawrence with the back-to-back nice showings from him. But who's the biggest winner? Mr. Happy Heath Cummings.
Mr. Happy Heath Cummings, Pat Freiermuth. Like the Steelers get a new offensive coordinator. They got a new system, and the system is throw the ball to the Muth. 9 catches, 120 yards, tight end 1 once again.
The tight end 1. Is he number 1 right now? He must be. Right?
No, I meant a tight end 1.
He gets Arizona next week. He is 53% rostered. So in addition to being the biggest winner, he might be one of the more added players.
I said this morning that you couldn't trust starting him, but I wanted to have him on my bench just in case this happened so that you could have him for next week. And I just want to tell you that was not true. I did not enjoy at all having Pat Freiermuth on my bench. There was no joy in that at all.
Are you worried about a fooled you game coming next week?
I mean, he's a tight end, so a little bit, but I'm going to start him next week. I'm going to kick the guys I started ahead of him to the waiver wire, so I don't have to think about it.
Dave, who's your biggest winner?
I think the biggest winner of the week is Kyren Williams, but I didn't answer your text fast enough. Heath beat me to it, so he's got him on his biggest winner week. And I think Pat Freiermuth is the second biggest winner, but the third biggest winner is Nico Collins, who, throwback game for the Texans from earlier this year. He was their leader, targets, catches, yards, had a touchdown. He made some plays on some scramble drills from CJ Stroud. It was great to see him involved in that way. And this Texans offense, I know they lost, but they're amazing. You guys know this already.
Oh, yeah.
And Collins got into it a little bit more this week than in prior weeks. I think it had been like 5 straight games for him under 15 PPR points, broke through in week 12.
Well, we should talk about Kyren Williams. We shouldn't wait till later on in the show. Let's talk about it. Heath, he was one of your winners. Kyren Williams is RB1 today, and he comes back, started in 77% of leagues, in case you hadn't heard. 16 carries, 143 yards. But also 6 catches, 61 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And this was a guy whose passing game role basically was erased when Cooper Kupp came back. And now
Cooper Kupp's not there.
Yeah, he's been erased.
Yeah.
Kyren Williams, though, big-time winner. Cleveland and Baltimore are next.
I put him as a winner, but I'm not sure, as the way we've talked about in the past, I'm not sure his fantasy value really changed much. He was RB13 for me this week, and I was a little bit hesitant because I thought they might ease him back in. He was a top 8 to 10 running back earlier in the season. He is what he has been. He's a must start, no doubt about it. Top 12 running back with a near feature workload. There was more Royce Freeman, but nobody noticed because there were 75 running back touches to go around because Arizona's terrible.
But it is interesting. There was a lot of Royce Freeman in this game, and it wasn't garbage time. He and Kyren were pretty even. Kyren had 16 carries. Freeman had 13. What really shocked me was the 6 catches and the 6 targets for Kyren Williams.
Well, Cooper Kupp is not like that. Cooper Kupp does not exist currently as the Cooper Kupp that we know and love. first time he caught the football, he was over on the sideline getting his ankle looked at, and they were talking about how he's playing through this because he's been told that he can't make it worse. But that doesn't mean that he's anywhere close to 100%. And so I think we probably could have put Cooper Kupp on the big time loser list as well. But I do think that your connection of Kyren targets with and without Kupp was a good one. It's just that we don't actually have Kupp.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's 5 straight games with fewer than 7 PPR fantasy points for Cooper Kupp.
And number 3 wide receiver.
Oh, wow. Ouch. Circumstances in some of these games, but for people who've been starting him every week, 5 straight terrible weeks for Kupp. All right. So your big winners are Freiermuth, Kyren, Nico Collins. Dave, who's the biggest loser for you?
I've got Adam Thielen as the biggest loser. 1 catch, 2 yards. Sounds right? No, it sounds terrible. And it's just the Panthers offense no longer really good for anybody. I know Chuba had a touchdown against Tennessee. It's a really bad spot for everybody to be in for the Panthers. And I think people are going to start questioning what to do with Adam Thielen. Against Tampa Bay next week, you're probably going to start him. Then New Orleans. I don't know if you will. Atlanta, do you start him then? It's ugly out there for him. 3 targets, that's it. He's been letting us down. He certainly hasn't been getting the volume of targets like he was like a month and a half ago. And Bryce Young really just doesn't look comfortable. This offense doesn't look good. It's starting to feel like Bryce Young's career is going to look like Trevor Lawrence's to begin, where he's got a fresh coaching staff, his second season, maybe a better receiving core his second season. And he gets a redo. He gets a mulligan on his rookie year.
Wow. You think they're going to change their coaching staff?
I think they're going to change their coaching staff. I think it's that bad for Carolina.
Well, and
they can't change their quarterback.
That might be true. They might change their coaching staff, but that's not going to fix it. Like the fact that they would hire Frank Reich and then fire him after 1 season is an indication of what's wrong. They don't have the patience to rebuild.
Sure. And then there's also the fact that you can't fix Bryce Young's size. And is it going to be permanently problematic for him that he's not 6 feet tall, that he can't look over his offensive lineman to make accurate throws downfield? Now, I would have argued before the draft that it wouldn't have been that big of a deterrent because he was able to get around it in college and high school. He's been the small guy this whole time. So it might take a creative play caller and a creative design of an offense to get him going in the right direction. I still think he's a talented quarterback, but the bottom line is that Adam Thielen is going to be really hard to trust in fantasy moving forward.
Okay, Heath,
Who's was the name of my middle school?
Who's your biggest loser today?
I do agree with Dave that Adam Thielen is the biggest loser. I didn't choose him because I didn't want to step on your toes, but I'm going to go with Jamar Chase. Another guy who was a first-round pick, a top 3 pick, a top number 1 pick in some leagues, and I'm not sure that he's any more than a number 3 wide receiver either. He caught 4 passes in this game, and 2 of them were off of deflections. Yeah. Like literally caught 2 passes that went directly from his quarterback's hands to his hands. Jake Browning is not anything close to an NFL quarterback. This is a disaster.
Yeah. All right. 4 catches for 81 yards. Wasn't that bad of a game, but he's obviously, losing value. And honestly, I have a team where I have T. Higgins and I need the roster spot. I'm thinking about dropping T. Higgins. I just can't see him being that good. Jake Browning cannot throw the ball downfield. I glanced. I think his ADOT, his air yards per pass attempt was something like 5 yards today.
I thought it was a letter of the alphabet. It was so low. No, he looked horrible. The only thing I can say is, could it get better with AJ McCarron? Because that's the only other option they really have. I think it might actually get a little bit better with AJ. It's not going to be pretty no matter what, but
more likely to improve their team situation. AJ McCarron or Joe Flacco?
Flacco.
They should have gotten Flacco.
Flacco, yeah. Jamie, also most likely to improve this situation is Jamie Eisenberg. He's here, and he's here with a lower third that says biggest loser right under his. That was pretty messed up. What's up, Jamie?
Hey, boys.
Who's your biggest loser today, to put you right on the spot?
Who's my biggest loser today?
Thielen and Chase. I'll let Jamie think about it.
My biggest loser is I picked up 2 kickers in a bunch of leagues. Blake Groupie, and
Well,
Matt Prater. And Matt Prater killed me.
0. Is he 0?
Big 0. Yep.
I picked up Riley Patterson on Thanksgiving. Got me a 0.
Yep.
Groupie was good though.
Groupie was awesome, and I jinxed him because I said right before he attempted his last kick in garbage time, I said he might be the fantasy MVP today because he had at that point 15 fantasy points, and then he missed.
Oh, well, he still had a very good game. Okay, not quite fantasy MVP though. So what am I promoting today? Let's just go with our other podcast. Go to cbssports.com/podcasts and check out our full lineup. We got some great shows for you. We've got college basketball. We've got college football. That wonderful time of year for sports. We have the Pick 6 podcast for NFL. We've got Morning Combat. We've got some soccer podcasts. I am forgetting a lot of all things covered. Check it all out. cbssports.com/podcasts. News and notes. Chris Olave left with a concussion. Oh, rough day for the Saints. First of all, the Falcons are in first place by beating the Saints. That's wild. But not only did the Saints lose, Chris Olave left with a concussion. Rashid Shaheed left in the second quarter, maybe the third quarter. Juwan Johnson left in the third quarter. Marcus Davenport left. They got super beat up today.
Marcus Davenport's on the Vikings.
Cameron Jordan left in the fourth quarter. I knew that sounded
Well,
wrong.
technically, Marcus Davenport did leave the Saints. Yes.
Yeah, he left the Saints. It's been all downhill since then. But they were the most injured team, and the Browns too. The Browns, Amari Cooper left with injured ribs. Dorian Thompson-Robinson has a concussion, and Myles Garrett said he felt something in his shoulder pop. So terrible day for them as well, losing to the red-hot Denver Broncos. Baker Mayfield had another chance. He had a chance for a better game. He got them down to the goal line, then he had to leave just for a few plays, but it was a goal line situation, and then he came back in. But he says he's going to have an MRI on his ankle. So we'll check on Baker Mayfield as they get Carolina next week. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I just mentioned that one. Sorry. PJ Walker came in for him. Javonte Williams, another guy who, just like Baker Mayfield, he left only briefly, but he left during a goal line situation, and Samaje Perine got a goal line touchdown for the Broncos. Travis Etienne left briefly, came back, chest injury. Demario Douglas, head injury. Concussion. Oh, I also forgot Eric McCoy. Actually, I think he came back.
That should be a fine too, like a fine or a suspension or something. He grabbed Demario Douglas by the face and just head plant him into the ground. It was like a WWE move.
I did not even see that.
It was awful.
Cheating Giants.
Too busy blocking out the worst win in franchise history 2 weeks in a row. Let's see.
2 seasons in a row.
Left guard Titus. No, wrong.
You could have CJ Stroud right now.
Whatever. Left guard Titus Howard was carted to the locker room for Houston. Left tackle Cam Robinson for the Jaguars left with a knee injury. Jeffrey Simmons left in the second half. I'm not sure if he came back. Philadelphia got a little beat up today, but doesn't look too bad. Fletcher Cox was able to come back in. Jordan Davis left in overtime. He looked okay. But Zach Cunningham, one of their linebackers that are already thin there, he left. And the Steelers gained 421 total yards. The entire Matt Canada tenure, they did not have a 400 total yard game. Every other team in the NFL did, I think, at least 3 times. The Steelers never did. Their first game without him, 421 total yards. Dave, do you think we actually saw tangible improvement from the Steelers today?
We saw it in 2 ways. I thought their run game was just a little bit better. I know people that started Jalen Warren won't necessarily agree. And Heath already mentioned it. Pat Freiermuth just getting so much work. He was dominating down the seam in the first half. And I would imagine that that's going to be something that sticks with the Steelers offenses. Or at least they try and establish that they can win in the middle of the field with Freiermuth. And that could open up things for Johnson and Pickens, neither of whom had huge weeks by any stretch.
All right. Well, Johnson did drop a touchdown. It would have been nice, but yeah, you're right. Even with that, it wouldn't have been a huge week.
That was a weird moment in the game, if I recall. Like their Deontay Johnson, was it a drop of a touchdown?
Yes.
He didn't complete the catch to the ground.
I mean, look, it wasn't like the ball hit his hands and he dropped.
I think the ball got knocked away, but he caught the ball 2 feet down. Second later, ball's out because it was punched out. And then on 3rd and 2, Jalen Warren fumbled. Cincinnati recovered.
Right.
Pretty big swing. Pittsburgh won, so it's not the end of the world, but that was a brutal sequence for the Steelers.
All right, listen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the early waiver wire options here. So, Dave, Heath, Jamie, you have 3 seconds to think about early waiver wire. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. early waiver wire. All right, so we'll do this whole thing again Tuesday. But for those people who want some names, fire away, guys. Who should we be looking to add?
We already named Pat Freiermuth. Pretty obvious. That's going to be the guy that everybody who picked up Isaiah Likely will pivot to if Likely stinks on Sunday night.
Gardner Minshew.
Minshew makes sense. He's got a nice matchup.
Does he make sense? I mean,
Tennessee, yes.
At Tennessee, as a bye week replacement quarterback, absolutely.
He scored like 14 points against Tampa Bay. But I understand what you're saying. There are 6 teams on bye next week. Yes.
Jalen Hyatt in New York.
Jalen Hyatt.
I like that. I like his talent a lot. I don't know if he's going to be this good every week.
On a bye though, so I don't know how much I'm going to buy into that.
They're on a bye.
That's true.
We can't win next week, thank God.
Yep.
It's I think Royce Freeman deserves a look. At least he'll have some work
Against Cleveland, though, it might be tough.
If Demario Douglas is okay, would you go to and add him?
bye.
Oh, wait,
no, they don't have a bye. I'm sorry, my bad.
I do not.
Yes.
I think everybody has a bye next week.
Well, 6 teams do.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely should be adding Demario Douglas.
Dortch.
Stafford?
Dortch for sure.
Oh, you can't. I don't know. Stafford
targets did he
next
have?
week home against the Browns.
Dortch, I think, had 8 targets.
Okay, so now this is going back to last year. That's 7 games with at least 4 targets. So that's 8. So 6 of 8, 11 or more PPR points when he's had 4 more targets.
If they throw the ball to him 8 times again next week after he just turned it into 27 yards on 9 targets, like, please come up with a new plan.
Well, I mean, it's a miserable passing game right now.
Yeah, but last week he turned 8 targets into 76 yards. So let's be fair to Greg Dortch here. But I think, he caught his. I don't know that he plays if Michael Wilson's back, because he didn't play really.
No, he won't. And that's just kind of been his MO basically his career. Whenever one guy's missing, he steps up and produces.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anyone else? All right, we'll talk about it on Tuesday. Buy or sell. Let's do some buy or sell. Here we go. Buy or sell. Trevor Lawrence is good now.
Buy.
I'll buy it.
Sure. I'm probably going to rank him around 12.
He was started
He's like top 5 this week, though.
Yeah, he was started in 60% of leagues. He's got Cincinnati coming up, and then the Cleveland-Baltimore back-to-back, which is no good. But unless Myles Garrett is out.
Right, I was going to say Cleveland might be good.
But yeah, I mean, it's encouraging, right? I mean, at the end of the day, he's got 3 rushing touchdowns in his last 2 games. It's really helping him. But also, Calvin Ridley dropped a touchdown. He missed Evan Ingram wide open. That was a terrible throw. But do you feel good about him getting you 23 or more points next week in a 6-point per passing touchdown league?
So that's now back-to-back games over that number. So against Cincinnati, primetime game, given the 6 teams on a bye, I don't know if 23 is what he needs to be a top 10 quarterback, but I'll say yes just to be optimistic.
I feel good about him getting 20.
Yeah, I think that's where he's going to live. I don't know how much he'll have to do next week because the Bengals' offense is so weak right now.
It's true. Yeah,
like once they get to 17 points, that's a wrap. I don't know if Cincinnati can get to that level with Jake Browning at quarterback.
Is that an accurate stat that he had 0 rush yards and 1 rush TD?
I think so.
That's pretty cool.
Kyler Murray had like 2 rushing touchdowns.
2 carries, no yards, 1
yards. 1 touchdown.
Really?
I think he had a kneel down. He had a 1-yard touchdown run. This is Lawrence. And then he took a knee later, I think. Yeah, he kneeled down last play of the game.
Okay. Buy or sell. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua cannot be trusted.
Together or individually?
Individually.
I'll sell that, but I don't think they're going to get 2 good games. You don't think you're going to get a good game from both of them consistently? Just haven't seen it.
I'm going to trust Puka for more weeks.
I think they realized pretty early on this week that they could win with the run, and they could make up for the Cardinals maybe overcompensating for those receivers by hitting Higbee in the red zone and hitting Kyren Williams on short throws and then handing the ball off to both running backs. And they might be able to get away with the same game plan next week against Cleveland. And then it's a tough matchup against Baltimore. I don't know if we'll feel good about these receivers until week 15 when they play the Commanders. By then, who knows who will be healthy.
I have no faith in Cooper Kupp right now. He was limping around too much.
No, I'll trust Puka one more week, but I'm not trusting Cooper Kupp next week, I don't think.
Okay. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, no. Buy or sell. Joe Mixon is doomed. He had 8 carries for 16 yards, 2 catches for 44 yards. He's got Jacksonville next week. They're a good run defense, but buy or sell, Joe Mixon is doomed.
Bye.
Yeah, I think the whole offense might be.
Are we overreacting, though? It's a lot of talent on that team.
It's a lot of talent, but the quarterback is just so brutal, and teams are going to be able to adjust how they cover them because Jake Browning is the QB.
But what's the difference between Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase and Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson? I mean, Breece Hall is definitely a more talented player, but he's also running the ball absolutely horribly lately. But Jamar Chase is a more talented player than Garrett Wilson. So I know this feels like a low point or this feels bad for the Bengals, but is it actually a low point? And things will be better, just law of averages almost.
I'm not as concerned about Jamar Chase as I am about Joe Mixon.
Which is a flip of how I was coming into the week. Like I downgraded them both, but I think I downgraded Chase a little bit more than Mixon. I mean, how often are we going to see him get more than 5 targets in a game? He did it last week. He did it 3 games prior. Are we on a submarine? What was that?
That was, I think, Skype.
That was definitely Skype.
We don't hear Skype much these days.
No.
JB's doing HQ.
Sure. So, like, I feel like an advantage Breece Hall has is getting more work in the passing game and being maybe more effective in the passing game than Mixon.
I think Jake Browning's worse than Zach Wilson.
He might be as crazy as that sounds.
Worse than
There's
Chip
actually a
Ball?
human being that plays professional football that's worse than Zach
Yeah, I don't think Zach Wilson's the
might be 2 of
worst
those
quarterback in
human
the history of NFL.
Zach Wilson
there might be 2 of those worst human beings, and that's Browning and Tim Boyle.
Maybe Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, this was a really bad game for the Bengals, but it might get better. I don't know, but all right, fine. You think he's doomed? I'm not going to argue with you. I made the case pretty clearly. Almost all of his touchdowns this year have come with Joe Burrow. He's so much better. Joe Mixon really needs to be on a good offense to be he can be an okay fantasy option, but to be a difference maker, he really needs to be on a good offense. He's just not good enough. I'm sorry to say it. All right, let's go to the winners and losers. We've talked about a lot of these guys, I think. Heath's winners are Pat Freiermuth, Jalen Hyatt, and Kyron Williams. So we have discussed them all. Freiermuth, would you go to one of Dave's losers here? Would you drop Kyle Pitts for Pat Freiermuth?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So then let's talk about Hyatt. He had 5 catches for 109 yards on 6 targets. And what made you so impressed today?
Well, we've seen Tommy DeVito kind of unlock the wide receivers already this season with Darius Slayton. I think had his best game of the season with DeVito. And now Hyatt was running a lot of those same routes. And I know Slayton was doubtful, but then he was active. I don't know how much he actually played today.
We need to look that up because that's an important point.
Hyatt?
No, how much Slayton played?
Could it be Slayton? I got it.
But again, I'm generally pretty favorable towards rookie wide receivers when they have big games in the second half, that building towards something. And I'm going to be the same way with Hyatt.
Slayton played 28 snaps.
Yep, 18
Hyatt
routes.
played 31. So that's good, actually.
Yeah, and I don't know, like coming off their bye, why they would play Darius Slayton more than Jalen Hyatt.
I think they'll both play.
I don't like the schedule for him, though. If that Packers defense is healthy by the time they get to week 14, that'll make it tough. Then they're at New Orleans, at Philly, Rams in week 17. So why are we adding Jalen Hyatt in a redraft league?
I don't know. Like, we're talking about adding Jalen Hyatt. We're not worried about, does he have the matchup that he could be a top 12 wide receiver? And I don't know that the Saints are necessarily somebody you have to stay away from right now.
Okay. So then listen, I love the talent, but it's not the best quarterback for him, even though he had a good game today. If they come out of the bye, are you starting him against Green Bay? Like, you'd have to
we're adding people. Like, you do have like 6 or 7 players on your bench in a lot of leagues, don't you?
Sure. But I want to start using those spots appropriately for the fantasy playoff push. This is the time of year where I might actually consider carrying 2 DSTs or a backup QB, or to have a spot to play keep away from my opponent. If
I agree. I agree with Dave. I
so
know
this isn't exactly. I like Hyatt, and I don't mind adding him in deeper leagues, but I have a tough time justifying adding him in a typical 12-team league. But maybe what the hell do I know? Like, he could come out of the bye and catch fire, and then you're right. The Saints defense won't have Lattimore. Maybe he does go off then.
I don't think he's going to be that good. I mean, he's kind of right now still a little bit of a one-trick pony, but he can catch the deep ball. I just think from a dynasty standpoint, I think there's potential here. He looks like like I said, I don't remember what show I said this on, but Dan Schneider posts Giants clips all the time, and he always posts Jalen Hyatt clips, and Hyatt blows by defenders every single week. He just doesn't always get the ball thrown to him, but he cannot be covered. He is super fast and very good route runner on those deep balls. But I mean, I'm not disputing that he's a winner. I don't think Jalen Hyatt's winning anyone a fantasy league.
Not this year.
I don't think anybody said that Jalen Hyatt's winning anybody a fantasy league.
All right, so I don't know. I'm not rushing to pick him up going into his bye week. No, I just okay. I don't want to put words in your mouth. What would you like to say in?
I don't need to say. I think we've said plenty about Jalen Hyatt.
Okay,
let's just move on, please.
All right. Okay, go to Dave's winners: Nico Collins, Drake London, and Najee Harris. All right, we haven't talked about them yet. Drake London had 5 catches for 91 yards on either 6 or 7 targets. I put 67 in my notes. He did not have that many targets, but yeah. So good game for him against the Saints, against the Jets though next week. But what do you think about Drake London, Dave?
I think he could be. You might hesitate to use him next week, but with the buys and everything else, you'll probably end up starting him as a number 3 receiver. He had a 33% target share from Desmond Ridder, made a couple of really nice catches, and it looked to me, and this will play into one of my losers, it looked to me like this offense is starting to narrow down who they use. And maybe Arthur Smith is trying to get away from being Mr. Unpredictable and anybody, any week could do anything for the Falcons. Or he can lean on Bijan Robinson and Drake London, his top 2 weapons in the offense, to, move the ball, score points, do good things. And so I'm encouraged by what I saw from London, especially with Ridder under center.
Najee Harris. Are you going to rank Najee or Jalen Warren higher next week?
It's not cool to rank Najee higher than Jalen Warren, but I'm going to. I just think that he's been running mostly well. There 2 games ago, or 1 game ago, I guess last week, he really didn't run that well, and it was a Warren game. But I got to give up on the Steelers saying that Jalen is going to be their main guy. I think they're going to use them both pretty close to 50-50. The snaps were almost 50-50 in the game today. Najee had just a few more, 53%. Warren had 49%. Warren dominating on 3rd downs. They each had a snap inside the 10, but Najee was working at the 5. That's where he scored. And he just doesn't look as horrible as he did earlier in the year. And they've got Arizona next week.
Yeah, baby. This is the matchup.
Patriots after that could be a little bit harder. Indianapolis, by the time they play Indy in week 15, Grover Stewart will be back. They'll fully replace Darius Leonard. That'll be an interesting matchup. And then Cincinnati in week 16. There's going to be some really nice matchups ahead for Najee Harris. I think you can be encouraged to start him as a number 2 RB.
All right, let's go to the losers. Dave's losers are Chris Godwin, the Falcons tight ends, and Adam Thielen.
No chance you can trust Kyle Pitts or Jonnu Smith anymore. Again, concentrated offense. They got away from trying to use a bunch of different players in their first game coming out of the bye against a tough Saints defense. I know that divisional matchup and all that, and I know Marshawn Lattimore didn't play, but I think it made it a tougher matchup. And Ritter's a mess anyway. I don't know if he can really carry good numbers for 3 people week in and week out. But in PPR, I think he can do it for 2. And I think those 2 are going to end up being Bijan and Drake London from game to game. And then with Chris Godwin, what is it now? 1 game in his last 1 game in his last 6 with over 15 PPR points. Adam, I know you noticed that he had an end zone target early on against Indianapolis. It came from Kyle Trask. I thought it was a pretty good throw, and Godwin just couldn't get his feet in, if I remember the play correctly.
Yes.
And so it's frustrating that he's getting all these end zone targets, and you just figure, well, okay, eventually he'll get his feet in and he'll score and he'll be good. But I don't think he's erupting. I don't think he's going to have a string of like 18 PPR point games anytime soon. I think a lot of fantasy managers have already moved on from him as a must-start type of wide receiver, and they view him now as a bye week replacement wide receiver. And he's one of those guys, you hate these guys. You don't feel good starting them, but you don't want to cut them either. They're just going to sit on your bench for a while, and it's frustrating. And I know next week it's Carolina. Maybe he has a bounce-back game. Maybe we start him against the Panthers.
Why does people think that Carolina is a good matchup?
Because any team can go up against Carolina and put up a decent amount of points.
With the run game every single week. I think they give up the 4th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers.
Because everybody runs on them.
Yeah, wide receivers don't have good
touchdowns.
No
so
wide
it's going to be a Rashad White week, and I would expect Mike Evans to have at least a good game, if not a great game. Godwin's going to be 3rd at best on that list.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Godwin's garbage. I mean, you mentioned 15 points.
Well,
I
I
think
don't like saying that, but
4 games in a row with like fewer than 11 fantasy points or something for Chris Godwin. What
he's had a lot of single-digit PPR games. Cade Otton outproduced him this week against Indy in a fairly high-scoring game.
Yeah, 4 straight single digit, and yeah, 15 points. He's done that twice this year.
So here's the other thing. We are getting to the point of the year, and I already talked about it, where you do make changes for how you shape your bench in fantasy. I don't know if I would do it for this coming week, but eventually we could get to a point as fewer and fewer teams are in the league and playing, where maybe you do consider cutting Chris Godwin to carry something else that is better serving your needs into the fantasy playoffs.
How about a look at Heath's losers? DeAndre Hopkins, who faced Carolina and got 5 targets, 3 catches for 49 yards. Jamar Chase, we discussed, and James Conner. Interesting game for Conner because he got 5 targets. That was great. 6 carries. Who are you more discouraged with, Hopkins or Conner?
Conner, because I had more hope for him. I don't think Hopkins has a game with Will Levis with more than 4 catches. He is not that far from Chris Godwin, basically just a touchdown dependent flex at this point, and you're hoping you don't have to start him. Maybe bye weeks will make you do it one more week, but you'd like to get away from DeAndre Hopkins as well. Michael Carter had touches early-ish in this game. Amari DeMarcado had touches in the second quarter of this game. It was just, again, I think the Cardinals doing the exact opposite of what Dave thinks that Arthur Smith figured out, and just getting as many touches as possible for your best players. They're distributing the ball to all kinds of fools.
Connor and Carter almost had the same snap share. Connor played 40%, Carter 38%. I don't know how much of that had to do with the fact that they were chasing points in the end. I would guess that had a lot to do with it. DeMarcado played 22% of the snaps. The only nice thing you could say about Connor is that he played 3 or 4 snaps inside the 10.
All right. James Conner's got Pittsburgh and then a bye. Anything else you want to say, Heath?
And then the 49ers after the bye. So I don't know when you're going to be starting James Conner with any kind of confidence again.
And then honestly, he has Chicago and Philadelphia, and those are typically 2 excellent run defenses. Terrible schedule for James Conner, which we kind of talked about on that schedule episode. We said if he's not catching passes, he's got some real.
He did catch passes.
He did. So that's good, right? Kyler threw a lot of passes today, though. He threw 40 something. He threw 45 passes.
But James Conner only played 40% of the snaps, so it's like he threw 20.
There you go. All right. Jamie's back. How about the almost touchdowns? Mike Evans came up a yard short of a touchdown, but then he scored 2 more. We had the Deontay one. We had Calvin Ridley. That one bothered me. 30-yarder. Christian Kirk came up a yard short at the very end of the half. That was so interesting.
What a dumb decision by Doug Peterson.
You got to go for it, right? You got to go for it.
Was the dumb decision the play call or the decision to just go for it in general?
Both.
I thought the play call was pretty bad.
You kick, you take the points. I mean, you got a gift there.
And Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram should have had his first touchdown of the game without question. And we would have.
They obviously talked about that because they made mention of what Trevor Lawrence said, that he's aware that Evan Ingram doesn't have a touchdown yet.
Sure. And then when that play was over, Evan Ingram was like on the sideline, like you could tell that he was really upset. They're going to get him a touchdown soon. Can they do it next week?
Yep. Cincinnati's terrible against tight ends.
That sounds like the time.
Someone asked if you would drop Evan Ingram for Pat Freiermuth.
Not next week.
They play Cincinnati next week?
And look what Freiermuth just did against it.
Yeah. That's actually
try and carry both.
That's good context because I think Cincinnati and Houston are arguably the 2 best matchups. So Freiermuth did exploit a really good matchup today. Not to say you shouldn't pick him up, but it is something to note. What else? Oh, the Mahomes Pacheco one was really annoying, wasn't that? Like,
Definitely a touchdown.
It was a touchdown.
Pacheco still got it, but
not Mahomes. Yeah. So that's 2 weeks in a row that Mahomes kind of got screwed out of a touchdown with the Watson drop last week. And with this,
that's what happens to mediocre quarterbacks, right, Adam?
I agree. I just, losing on the road to the Raiders, he should have been losing for 1 second of that game. And Cortland Sutton dropped a touchdown. It was not an easy touchdown, but he almost had another one. And then Adam Troutman caught one on the next play. All right, we're moving right along here. We're going to take a break and we'll get to the game, starting with a game that you weren't even thinking about. I guarantee it. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. Yes, Black Friday, Miami and the Jets. Remember that game? 34-13. The Hail Mary.
Now?
Well, yeah, we haven't talked about it on any of our shows.
Let's just
You
get it
had
over
an
with.
hour and a half today.
We're answering start sit. All right. Heath, you got to believe it or not for Black Friday?
clearly do not. Yeah.
Take your time. Take your time.
Jalen Waddle's back. Believe it or not.
Jeff Wilson is going to matter.
I don't believe that.
No, but I got to tell you, if we still had a trade deadline, I'd be looking to sell Mostert. I don't know if anybody would take him.
If something happened to Mostert and Devon Achane was back, who do you think would have the most touches on the Dolphins?
Devon Achane.
You think they're fine? They're just completely comfortable given the guy who's not been able to stay healthy a full workload in the end of the regular season.
I'll admit that this is the best Wilson's looked all year, but he still can't hold a candle to Achane.
I don't think he'd get a full workload to the point of what Mostert's been getting, but I think we'd be looking at 14 carries for one, 12 carries for another, split the work in the passing game.
Until Achane goes bananas, and then it's 20 carries for him and 6 for Wilson.
They got to get that guy healthy in the playoffs.
I don't think that's the case.
That would be a really bad plan by the Dolphins if they get him hurt again.
You got to love Wilson next week at Washington if Achane's not ready to play, though. And maybe even if Achane is ready to play.
Oh, I can't wait to start Jalen Waddle next week. I did some digging on Waddle. This is obviously one of his better games. I don't think I'm necessarily going to tell you anything that you didn't already know. But in 2022, Jalen Waddle had catch and run touchdowns with 74 yards after the catch, 41 yards after the catch, and 31 yards after the catch. This was sort of a staple of Jalen Waddle's game. Take a pass, like what we see Tyreek Hill do all the time. He doesn't have any of those this year. He had one touchdown this year where he had 15 yards after the catch, but he was wide open, busted coverage. He walked into the end zone. Deep completions. In 2022, Waddle had 4 catches, 178 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets that were thrown 20 or more yards downfield. Not air yards necessarily, but air yards from the sticks or from the line of scrimmage. He had 178 yards on that. This year he has 32 yards, 1 catch. And it was this game. His completion over Sauce Gardner was his first catch downfield this year, basically. His first deep ball completion of the year. But he's going to have 4 of them against Washington. As far as the Jets go.
Why are you so quick to get rid of Mostert, by the way?
Obviously the first 3 quarters of that game, he was bad. And Jeff Wilson looked like the better running back. I just don't think he's looked that good or sharp lately. And he is completely gone from the passing game. It's something like 2 targets in the last 5 games. Maybe it's not that bad. No, it's 4 targets in his last 4 games. And if he's not getting 20 carries 2 weeks in a row, if you're looking at 12 carries and 1 target, maybe that's not a player that I trust.
No, I don't necessarily disagree with the theory of trading him, but it feels like you want to give him away.
No, all right. I'm going to get out of the trade discussion now. Most people aren't trading. This is what I would say. There are certain players that you put in your lineup and you love it. You're so excited. You cannot wait to get this guy in your lineup. You don't even think about it. I don't feel that way about Mostert if Achane's back.
I think it's going to be really interesting what Achane's role is if he's back.
Well, I think the problem is if Achane's back and there's 3 guys sharing, that's the problem.
Yeah. Right. Wilson acquitted himself pretty well. Could be a real pain in the butt. How do you feel about, like, if I'm not feeling super confident about Mostert right now, how are you guys feeling about Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, framing it that same way? How confident are you when you put them in your lineups?
It feels like it's the same thing with Garrett Wilson week in, week out. Like okay, I can't trust him. It's going to be bad quarterback play. And then he does something and he's still very productive.
Finds a way.
I'm not ever really considering sitting either one of them.
Yeah. Like I don't like when we do rankings, Heath talked about this with Brock Purdy. Like, you just put him in the top 12, whether he's 8, 10, 12, he's in the top 12. Like, Garrett Wilson's just in the top 24. It's just, okay, is he better or worse than Nico Collins? Is he better or worse than Cortland Sutton? Is he better or worse than Puka Nacua? He's going to be somewhere probably between like 15 and 24 every week. And so if you have him on your team, especially in PPR, you're just starting him. If you have him in non or half PPR, it just depends who else you have. Touchdowns are going to be hard to come by, but look, he scored in one game with Tim Boyle, and hopefully that's the case moving forward.
Tim Boyle, very, very conservative. So he had 7 catches for Breece Hall. He was just dumping the ball off basically the entire game. But Hall's rushing, I don't know. I mean, it's horrible. What?
I always like it when you get into the chat. Did you call someone super idiot?
I did, because he called me something much, much worse, like an extremely offensive
You
thing.
called one of our listeners super idiot.
Now, honestly, you use that word again, I'm kicking you out. So you keep going at it, super idiot. Never, ever use that word in here again. All right.
Dad has entered the room.
You can't use that word.
I don't even know what the word was.
You can't use
But
it.
you don't tell me. Don't say it. Whatever it was.
Did he call you an idiot? And you went, oh, yeah? Well, you're a super idiot.
Yes, Adam wants us to drop Mostert. Like, if you listen to what I said and you're talking that I wanted you to drop Mostert, you're a super idiot. So that's your own problem.
You are a super idiot for using that word, but
you saw it.
That's yeah, I did.
Yeah. All right. Oh, somebody's on his side. I'm the idiot. Screw you. All right. Pittsburgh 16, Cincinnati 10. Pittsburgh had the ball for over 37 minutes in this game. Bengals were 2 for 10 on third down. We've covered a lot of angles of this game, Heath. I don't know if you have anything.
Well, we covered a lot of Steelers too. We talked about Najee and Jalen. We talked about Freiermuth. I'm going to go back because I don't think Jamie's as worried about him as I am. So the Bengals don't have a must-start player.
I'm not benching Jamar Chase.
Right. Agreed.
Can we
Don't
talk about
believe
Deontay Johnson and George Pickens?
There was a play. I don't know if you saw it. Deontay Johnson gave up. I think it was on a fumble.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to go well when Mike Tomlin sees that if he hasn't saw it already. So I'd be a little bit nervous about him.
Yeah. I don't know if he knew it was a fumble. I feel like he
That's
didn't.
what I think a lot of Steelers did.
I mean, he didn't look like he was blocking on the run attempt. He didn't look like he was doing anything to give any effort. It was pretty pathetic.
Third straight game with single-digit PPR points, too.
I think I'm good with this game. I think we've really talked a lot about them. All right. Tennessee 17, Carolina 10.
Oh,
Nice.
Adam Thielen is a sit.
I wonder
about
if
Chuba Hubbard?
Tampa Bay. It's a good question because you got this slumping player, but now you got Tampa Bay, which is a very enticing matchup.
I don't believe this offense is functional. I'm not going to feel good starting Adam Thielen next week.
All right, I got a good one, I think. Buy or sell. This was the last good fantasy game we're getting from Derrick Henry this year.
No, he gets the Colts this week.
So
that will be the last good game we'll get from Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I mean, look,
Houston,
Adam, we talked about this on Friday. This is now 7 of 8 games, wins or within 7 points, 16.2 PPR points or more. And so the track record's there. I don't know what the line's going to be. If you guys see the early line, let me know. I'm going to guess the Colts are favored probably by 4, if I had to guess.
Let's see.
So
I've got Colts by 2.
okay, so that's even better for the Titans that
you
they're
should
going to
bet the Colts.
in the game. Yes, I'd bet the Colts. That they have a chance to be competitive, and so correct me if I'm wrong. Grover Stewart's got to be coming back soon. The 6 games have to be up if they're not.
I believe it's week 14 when he can come back.
It was week
That's
8
when
he went
Super
out?
Grover comes back.
Oh, Grover. I'll be back week 14.
Oh, gosh. I could have
Wow.
lived without that.
I used to
Super
do a
Grover
really
is
good
pretty.
Grover.
We got any more supers coming?
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I think Henry's fine.
Yeah, week 14. All right. After that, it could be rough, though. It could be some bad game scripts for him. All right. I think I'm good with this game. Finish with this game. Jacksonville 24, Houston 21. Let's spend the rest of the show on this game. Great game. We finished.
It was fantastic. Believe it or not, Devin Singletary is a number 2 running back next week.
With 6 teams on a bye, yeah.
And he's playing Cincinnati. I believe it.
No, he's not playing Cincinnati.
He's playing Denver.
Denver, even better.
My bad. I was looking at Jacksonville.
Even better.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, I'll still believe it, even with Denver.
So what do we have? What were the splits there? The carries were very even, but Singletary had 6 catches and Pierce did not have. Oh, he had 1 catch.
Singletary dominated playing time. He played 81% of the snaps. I think Pierce started the 3rd series for Houston, and that was then they basically rotated series. Don't quote me on that being how it went down, but Singletary dominated 3rd downs, 12 of 13. He played in the 2-minute offense, all 3 of their snaps inside the 5. They used him like he's their lead running back. And I know the stats weren't great. He had a number of nice runs in the game.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's encouraging that he came out ahead. We need running backs. We need people that we can trust a little bit. So Singletary, yeah, they just didn't run the ball very much in this game at all. All right. So what is your confidence level in Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk?
Must start wide receivers.
Is Zay Jones okay?
He's a big key to all of it, right? It's so funny. He
What
does
is he,
nothing,
like,
and the other two guys
good
do
luck
better.
charm for them?
He got dinged at the end of that game, right?
I didn't see
I'm not
anything.
sure if he got dinged. I know he had a jump ball target on the end zone or near the end zone, and he couldn't stay in
He's fine.
bounds.
Let's just say he's fine for the sake of argument.
Well, then there must start wide receivers.
Look, they're doing a good job of finding new ways to get Ridley open. They're using him in the
Because
slot
Jones
more.
is playing.
I
That's
don't
the
think
way.
it's
That's
all
the
because
way.
of a guy playing.
It's 100% because he's playing, because he's running different routes when Zay Jones plays. Go look at every game that he's played, and every game Calvin Ridley is not just running down the field.
But that's the thing, is like his ADOT's been super high these last 2 games.
He's
It
playing
feels
more in the slot. You talked
last
about this
week he
too,
did. This week he did not. I thought maybe the same
The
thing.
touchdown was in the slot.
But okay, well that's good because he's been really productive in the slot this year, and they put him in the slot like 23.5% of the time last week, but it was bound to 13 or something this week, which is
13%.
really
Well, I was watching the game with Mr. Jacksonville himself, and he said that also. He's like they got to put him in the slot more. And I brought up what you said about. I said it was 25%.
something like that.
And Pete was like, exactly 100%. They got to put him in the slot more.
By the way, do you know what he had at halftime, stat wise?
Yeah, Bupkins.
Nothing.
Yeah.
He had no catches at halftime. Came out house ablazing in the second half.
Ooh.
Kirk. I'm a little worried about Kirk because he had that long catch and run.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's
really
still-
something to really be worried about.
7 targets for Kirk, and
He made that great play. I'm so worried.
well, he just doesn't really get a lot of targets. It's 7 or fewer targets in like 5 of his last 6 games now. And it's been 6 of them in 4 of those games. So I don't know. This is only the second game all year that they both were good.
Well, Kirk had 12.9. Is that
Yeah.
good?
It's fine. You start that, but it's not great. No. All right. So you're right. So wait. All right. It's not always just about the yardage. There's more things to it here. We got to look under the hood a little bit. Next game is Indianapolis 27, Tampa Bay 20.
You should go right back to Josh Downs last week.
Wait, go back to the other game first. You're not worried about ETN at all?
Oh,
Yeah, we probably should mention something.
I
about
was
ETN.
expecting
I was
the Adam
thinking about
Azer,
you.
Travis Etienne victory lap.
Yeah, I was thinking that you might.
But he
do
scored almost as many points as Christian Kirk, didn't he?
He got what did he have? 86, 12.6.
Okay. You start that.
He started the game with 10 yards on 10 carries. He left with a chest injury and came back. Dearness Johnson looked better than he did in the first half.
20 carries is good as long as he's that involved. Like we said, the last 2 weeks were really bad game scripts for ETN. I think people may be misinterpreting, as you guys are sort of misrepresenting what I had been saying about Travis Etienne. He was the number 2 running back in fantasy at the time. I didn't really buy him as that. He wasn't really doing it in the typical number 2 overall running back way, and I just thought it was the peak of his value.
You made
huge,
the case for him
huge
as a
boost
sell
coming up.
high, and it turned out to be prescient.
Huge boost coming up Monday night.
Yeah,
That's
Cincinnati should be great for him, but unless they blow them out. I'm happy that I have him on my teams. I'm not even going to hesitate to start him, unlike that bum Mostert or Mahomes. Okay, Indianapolis. I get Indianapolis and Tennessee confused. I can't be the only one, right? Like similar colors, same division.
Very close to each other
You're a
geographically.
super idiot.
27-20. What do you say? What'd you say, Heath? What was your believe it or not?
You should go right back to Josh Downs next week.
I love the target volume, so I think I'll believe that if we're talking PPR.
You gotta wonder though, is he healthy? I mean, it's now the knee injury. Now, I know he's not an injury report, but what did you say, Adam? There was something that came out that he's been dealing with this since the preseason, and he may just be dealing with it all season long.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a chronic injury. But you had said that a beat reporter wrote that he was as healthy as he's been.
Yeah, but I mean that's if it's chronic.
I'm encouraged. He splits targets with Pittman. He just had a bad game, but he had 13 targets.
How much passing will Gardner Minshew actually have to do next week?
Wait, they're 41 times today. So
Tennessee.
They're 41 times today, but they're playing against Tennessee. Titans offense. How many points can we count on them for?
I think it'll be competitive early in the game. Maybe. Look, the Colts ran through Tampa Bay today, but no Levante David and Devin White came into the game banged up. So I don't know if that's a true representation of the Tampa Bay defense. So Titans run defense has typically been good. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure Jonathan Taylor could have had a nice game if everybody had been healthy, but he got a little bit of a gift with the front seven being pretty beat up for the Bucs this week. All right, Atlanta. Oh, I'm sorry. Anything else here? No, I mean, we talked about Henry and Hopkins. Evans is amazing. Congratulations to Mike Evans. I mean, what a freaking season. I don't know that I could have been more wrong about a player than I was Mike Evans. Atlanta 24, New Orleans 15.
I cannot imagine there's anything left to say about the Falcons, and everybody on the Saints is hurt.
What about Alvin Kamara?
Yeah, he had 109 yards and scored 14 PPR fantasy points, 15 PPR. Sounds a lot like Alvin Kamara.
Still no rushing touchdowns from running back against the Falcons.
Oh, yeah. How about that? Amazing. How about Taysom Hill? He had 55 receiving yards and 26 rushing yards.
I mean, he may be their best receiver next week.
Yeah.
Maybe. He didn't have a lot of routes. I think he had another game with a dozen routes. And that's in a matchup where Olave got hurt. Shaheed got hurt. Juwan Johnson was out.
Juwan Johnson also got hurt, though. If Juwan Johnson's out, then he's like a top 5 tight end.
Yep. Sure. So that's probably where we're looking, is that if Juwan Johnson, he finished the game, but if he ends up missing next week, then Taysom Hill will be mega must start.
Man, they need Chris Olave to clear the concussion protocol. He was awesome. He was absolutely awesome in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he could really light up Detroit. Okay, next game. I'm glad that they saved Bijan Robinson for the stretch run. He wouldn't have been good earlier in the year. They did the right thing.
He's amazing.
He's amazing. I don't know. He finds like a little bit of a sliver and he just scores a touchdown.
Yep.
Giants the division.
Oh yeah, we got 3 more years of Arthur Smith.
The Giants are red hot. They have a longer win streak than the Chiefs. Giants 10, Patriots 7.
You should really try to find another plan besides Saquon Barkley in the fantasy playoffs.
Thank God they're on a bye. I don't want to watch them anymore.
There you go. At the Saints, at the Eagles, against the Rams in the fantasy playoffs.
I had a trade offer this morning from another fantasy analyst in an expert league. That was Saquon Barkley and DK Metcalf for my Kyron Williams, Tank Dell, and Dalton Schultz. I couldn't reject it fast enough.
That's a horrible offer.
Couldn't reject it.
That's from an.
Well,
you can't say who said it. That's a
no. I will not say who offered it.
No, don't.
Yeah, I think you should.
It wasn't me, by the way.
I think you definitely should. But it's just fun. I love those that sound like so obvious that you should have accepted 2 months ago. That are just a horrible offer, and there's no way you'd do it now.
So, all right, I'll just come to Barkley's defense. This is only his 3rd bad game of the year. 2 of them were against the Cowboys. I don't really have an explanation for this. The Giants didn't have the ball much. They had the ball for about 25 minutes. He had 12 carries for 46 yards, 1 catch for 6 yards. I don't know. They just couldn't really get into a rhythm defensively. The Patriots, I mean, they actually have a pretty good defense. A lot of teams, like, didn't Taylor have a pretty bad game against them last week or 2 weeks ago? Am I crazy?
In Germany, he wasn't great.
I just think you got a quarterback that's getting the ball down the field, so he doesn't have to dump it off quite as much.
Yeah, a little bit, but usually he's got a pretty high floor. I don't know. I think Like last week, I was really nervous about him. He was coming off a terrible game, and last week he scored like 30 points. And they used him in the passing game last week. So this just kind of feels like a random bad game for him.
Well, I think the memo was try and lose, so don't give Saquon touches.
Yeah.
And both these teams were just. I'm really convinced that Ryland was told to miss the field goal.
Oh, wow. I mean, they should have. All right, Denver 29, Cleveland 12.
Joe Flacco, baby, next week.
This is what I was talking about though before the show. Like the quality, like Russell Wilson. I heard somebody analyst talking about how he's cooking, and he is doing enough to win, and his rate stats look okay, but it's 134 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think he might be a top. Oh, here's this. Russell Wilson's going to be a top 8 quarterback rest of season.
No, I don't believe
They
it.
have 2 games against the Chargers left.
Maybe I believe it.
I'm a believer. I don't know. Top 8 seems kind of rich.
They're going to make the playoffs. After how bad they started, they're going to make the playoffs.
I love it. They might play Miami in the first round.
Wow.
That would
what
be
an upset that would be.
fantastic.
That would be really cool. That would be
That would be
poetic.
so great.
This time they'll only lose by 30.
That honestly, I give Sean Payton credit. He could have fired Vance Joseph in week 3 when Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane just ran right through them, and they gave him 70 points. And the defense has turned around. I mean, we've talked about this a lot, and getting healthy has been a big part of it. But what a turnaround! What a turnaround!
It's been awesome.
Oh, terrific. Javonte getting 18 carries was nice, 3 catches. As long as he's in a positive game script, he should be very involved. And it's a good chance he would have had a goal line touchdown, or at least an opportunity at one. But like I said, he was injured when Samaje Perine was
Still has not scored a rushing touchdown. It's crazy.
And Jaleel McLaughlin, it looks like that fun is over. You can drop him. He's 57% rostered. I think, we don't have to talk about this now, but they have been a quarterback slayers. Mahomes twice, one of those games he was sick. Josh Allen. They got CJ Stroud next week. So that'll be interesting. It's in Houston, but that's going to be a tough matchup.
There's 6 teams on a bye. You're not benching CJ Stroud.
No chance.
You're not benching CJ Stroud, but I say this all the time. The Stroud manager might also have another high
Trevor
end.
Lawrence.
Fair.
I'd start Stroud over Lawrence.
I start Lawrence over Stroud next week.
Make him the start of the week, Jamie. Come on, man. All right.
I think it was the opposite thing with Lawrence, wasn't it? It was like the second that everyone stopped backing him that he took off. He needed the opposite of the start of the week. He needed the
Do you
doubters.
like roses, daisies, or dandelions better?
I'll take all 3.
I like them all too.
Flowers touchdown.
Do you want them tomorrow or do you want them today?
Right now.
All right. Rams 37, Arizona 14.
Marquise Brown is back.
So I know I'm supposed to say that I don't believe it because he had a bunch of numbers in garbage time, but isn't that part of the reason why we like having Marquise Brown? Is so he can get some numbers in garbage time?
Do you
Next
think I
week's
asked
gonna be
these
tough
questions
against
with
Pittsburgh.
you already having an answer in mind?
What do you mean?
You said you were supposed to say you don't believe it. You think I like when I ask these questions, I have an answer that I want you to give?
I don't know. I think you have an answer that you want to give. I don't think you really care what we say.
So we got 3-game sample size of these 2 guys together, right, this season, and 2 of them were absolutely awful. And then this is the first time that Marquise Brown got the targets that we were hoping for and produced.
It was a good game. He was the number 3 receiver.
45 pass attempts. I do have to point that out. Probably won't see a ton of that.
I don't know. They play.
Believe it or not, Marquise Brown is back.
I think you're starting him as a number 3 receiver next week, and then you can't use him in week 14 because they're on bye.
Yeah, I
Niners
mean,
after that. We already talked about their schedule. It's
Tyler's running for his life next week.
Kyler's running for his life next week at Pittsburgh. Yes. On the other side of the ball, optimism for Matthew Stafford, 31 fantasy points.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 2 stiffs at wide receiver, so as long as his tight end and his running backs are catching the ball, he's great.
Does he get to play Arizona again?
Yeah, no, but he gets to play Cleveland and Baltimore next.
But Cleveland without Myles Garrett and his back-to-back road games for Brown. Look, the Browns defense on the road. Go look at the numbers. Not as great.
And Denzel Ward didn't play this week either. I don't know if he'll be back. So, I had something else I was going to say about this game. It's okay. We'll skip it. Oh, I know. Yeah. If you want to make fun of me, I did say that Tyler Higbee was probably the most over-rostered player in fantasy.
You did. That's right.
I
Tell the Tyler Higbee story.
Me?
Dave told me, so I know you're involved though, Heath. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I got an email today from our dynasty league that we're all in. I dropped Tyler Higbee because there was a false report that came out that Tyler Higbee was going to be inactive.
Yeah.
So didn't want to take a 0, trying to not be a Dan in our dynasty league. Dropped Tyler Higbee and picked up another tight end. And then immediately there comes a tweet. Oops, Tyler Higbee is going to be active. This is like an hour before the game starts. Like no question what to do here. So I go back, switched the move, put Tyler Higbee back in his lineup, it was Adam Troutman actually, who also caught a touchdown pass. Send out Adam Troutman back to the waiver wire, and he starts Tyler Higbee, and Tyler Higbee scores 2 touchdowns. And I think that might be the difference in his game. He is in a dog fight right now.
Who?
RJ.
Oh,
this isn't in the Bake Burger dynasty.
RJ made so you.
I don't have commissioner access in the Bake Burger.
No. You reversed it for RJ.
Yes.
Okay, that's funny.
No, it was like 3:05. So it was like right after it happened. He's like, I made the move, and then they said that he actually was not inactive.
That's pretty funny. All right, good for you, Heath. Very, very nice commissionering there. Next game, Buffalo at Philadelphia. I don't have any stats on this game because it finished while we were on the air. 37-34. Eagles win in overtime. And looking at the stat sheet now, pretty good stuff. Not a good game for James. Oh no, James Cook had 6 catches for 57 yards. Never mind. This was terrific. Not a good game for Dalton Kincaid. He took a little breather today. But yeah, what do we got from this, Heath?
Gabe Davis is back.
Let's ask. Hey, April, you suck this week, by the way. Is Gabe Davis back? Chances aren't good. Oh no, wait.
No,
very likely. Very likely.
The Magic 8 Ball liked Gabe Davis this week.
It did?
Yes, on Tuesday.
didn't
we were
this
talking
morning.
about dropping him.
Really?
I think the problem is that Adam asked. I was on 4 different shows this week where Adam asked the Magic 8 Ball about Gabe Davis. So I'm not sure which one we're using.
It's got to be the first one, I think. The first one.
Okay, Tuesday one counts then.
All right. Magic 8 Ball is still on a hot streak.
You don't even have to ask him next week.
Just like the Giants. Yeah, on a bye next week. Gabe Davis is back. I don't think I'll ever believe that.
No,
well,
unless
he's going to be on bye next week. They'll hold him through the bye, and then they have their big showdown at Kansas City in Week 14.
Not starting him there.
Gabe Davis is back because he had 0, like nothing, 2 or 3 weeks in a row. You got to show us the upside every once in a while, so we've got the appeal. He's gonna score against the Chargers in Week 16.
Right, but he's going to give us a big fat fooled you game in Weeks 14 and 15.
I mean, the Eagles are a good matchup. Maybe a great matchup. They give up among the most big plays in football. So he works.
Still made so many mistakes. He should have caught the game-winning touchdown. He ran the wrong route in overtime.
So
you know that last week when he had 0 catches for 0 yards, they gave him the game ball. They love him. They think he's one of their most valuable players, even when he doesn't catch the ball.
Explains a lot.
They gave him a fake game ball. Just like
they gave him a Magic 8 Ball.
He's a wide receiver who will play 100% of the snaps and block every running play and not complain when he doesn't get a target.
Yeah, coaches love those guys, and
this is a fun game.
They have value in the NFL. They just don't have value in fantasy.
He has all kinds of value in fantasy. He wins people like 6 games a year.
No, he also loses people 6 games.
Yeah.
No, 0 doesn't lose you a game from a wide receiver 3.
It's a little bit true. It's a little bit true. But I can't sit here and be like, oh, start him every week.
No.
Yeah.
He was never that.
Kansas City 31, Las Vegas 17.
I should just say Patrick Mahomes is back, but that's not true because the Isaiah Pacheco touchdown was not a touchdown. How about this? Have we even mentioned the start of the week yet?
Pacheco. That's what I'm saying, dude. The start of the week is fire.
Fantastic. Top 10 running back this week?
Top 5.
89 total yards, 5 catches, really came through. That was an area I wasn't sure he'd be able to do well in, and he scored twice. He was excellent.
And by the way, this is a guy who scored more than 16 fantasy points now twice in his last 20 games, something like that. And Jamie nailed it. Nice work.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
How about
Heath
Josh
did
Jacobs?
too. Hold on. He did too.
Okay.
He had him as a top 10 back.
Heath had him ranked higher than I did.
Yeah, I was the
well done, Heath. Well done. Okay, so Josh Jacobs, though, had a 63-yard rushing touchdown, and he had 4 catches for 15 yards.
That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know what's real, though, you know?
Well,
I mean, I think you just got to bank on starting him every week. Like, don't worry about there'll be a bad game or two here and there.
Well, what about 20 fantasy points for Jacoby Myers?
I don't want to buy that.
That one, yeah, I got to see more.
I mean, that's against one of the most difficult matchups for wide receivers.
They'll come out of the bye against Minnesota.
What am I doing here? We didn't talk about Rashee Rice an hour and 5 minutes, and we didn't talk about.
Oh, I would assume that was one of your guys' winners. Yeah, 10 targets, 9 catches. That was or 8 catches.
Yeah, he's a winner for sure. You know, Adam makes us send in our winners and losers like before halftime of the 4 o'clock.
No, I don't make. I'm pretty sure I'm always like, take your
Show
time.
your text again. Let's see if you're running women's underwear.
What did I write? I did say 3 winners and 3 losers.
You said 3 winners, 3 losers. Send them now.
No, I did not.
I'm just glad you saw that text.
Oh man, but no, Rashee Rice. I mean, it cannot be as simple as Kadarius Toney and Mecole Hardman didn't play, right?
Well, how many snaps did he play? Because he's been limited with his snaps.
Over 80% of the snaps.
Then there you go.
That's good.
And he still had 2 drops, so not great, but
he ran a route on 71% of Mahomes' dropbacks. That is probably close to a season high for him.
I mean, he's a borderline number 2 receiver in this week.
Let's find out if it's a season high.
This game had some surprises. Devontae Adams. I don't know if it was a shock, but Devontae Adams with 73 yards. I can't say it was a shock, but
no.
Only 7 targets and turning that into 73 yards. That was
it's a solid game given the what the Chiefs have done to number 1 receivers recently.
Yeah,
it's a season high by 7 percentage points. Almost every other game this year, he's been below 60% of routes per dropback in Kansas City.
All right,
so they have set Rashee Rice free.
Last one is a buy or sell from Metal Mask 3 on YouTube. Adam is drunk with power. He needs to be stopped.
Bye.
So Adam doesn't drink, but this is how he gets his buzz going.
Just ordering people around.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. That was bad hosting on my part. I should not have forgotten about Rashee Rice until the
so
very.
That's now in the last 2 weeks you forgot Dalton Schultz and Rashee Rice.
I did.
Speaking of Dalton Schultz, CJ Stroud forgot him today.
That's true. Although on one of the biggest throws of the game, 4th down throw that they went for, I don't understand why he went on a out route to Dalton Schultz.
Threw a deep ball down. Yeah, crazy.
I think Brevin Jordan had the same number of targets today.
Schultz got lucky last week. He caught a touchdown.
Yeah,
he slid.
It's Tank Dell's team. Tank Dell. I don't think I mentioned Tank Dell had a 50-yard catch called back
on a penalty that he had, by the way, which was stupid.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's only a penalty if there's 2 guys in motion, right? Because CJ Stroud was arguing that after the play.
No, he turned upfield before the ball was snapped.
Okay, that's it.
As the ball was being snapped, he didn't. It was like a CFL play.
We are out of here. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow on Beyond the Box Score. Good evening.